Well, of course, it's day 2 of the manufacturing Indaba here at the Sandton Convention Center. The interesting elements, of course, have come as to where the future of trade, industry, manufacturing as well have become quite key. Just exactly how you increase the ingenuity of South Africans when it comes to the manufacturing sector and hopefully build for the future. What about intra-African trade? All of those issues coming to the fore as well when you take a look at the manufacturing Indaba. Who else and who better to speak about it as well as than the Department of Trade and Industry, the DG, Director General, Lionel joining me as well. DG, thank you so much for the time. I suppose it's very interesting to start off with just the elements of intra-African trade. That is quite significant. We've looked at ways to get that steaming ahead. How far are we?
Well, as you know, the continent is our main market now. It makes up about 1/3 of our manufacturing exports is to the continent and so on. So that's our main priority. And as you know, there's 2 big agreements that we are entering into. The one is called the Tripartite Free Trade Area, which is 26 countries, which is SADC, East African Community, right up to Egypt. That agreement, as I said, is busy. We're busy with the ratification process in Parliament, and we will be doing that. And then there's the Continental Free Trade Area, which, as you know, the legal advisors are doing the final paperwork, but in the next few days the President will be signing and we will be part of the Continental Free Trade Area. So what we will have then is a free trade area, no tariff barriers. Over time, as we negotiate, no tariff barriers on the continent, and then our main priority, as I said, will be to prioritize inter-African trade, because as you know, the challenges, the global trade war, the increased protectionism right across the world, and so on, we're going to have to rely on ourselves, on our own domestic market, on SADC, but on the continent more and more. So that is our number 1 priority, and the reason, it's our way of industrializing. As you know, the reason most of the 50 African countries can't industrialize is because of the small market. Yes. And therefore, if you want to industrialize, you need to increase the size of your market. And I think this is what the inter-African trade integration offers us.
Is this going to help financially, though? Because the question then becomes, being able to do it in a different market might cost more money, and perhaps the scale, etc., might be an issue as well. Will it be of extreme benefit financially, especially in the short term?
Well, as I said, you're right. It's obviously, it cannot be our total exports, because we need to leverage all our partnerships with the rest of the world. As you know, we already have a free trade agreement with the European Union. So that is a big market for us, and it's one of our traditional markets. So we have to leverage that. What we have negotiated there is to expand some of our market access, especially for agricultural products, for sugar, for wines. They have given us increased access in Europe. Of course, the United States still remains a key market, and that's why our main aim there was to maintain our access into that market. It's still important, but as I said, it is shrinking. Europe, again, is maturing, it is not growing. It's so Asia, but most important, the only market that is growing all the time is the continent. So as I said, in the medium to long term, it is our future, but more immediately as well, as we have to get the trade agreements now right. We need to open up our border posts more clearly, make them more efficient to get goods transported across the continent, but also to remove all tariff barriers, but most importantly, for our companies to invest also on the continent, so that it's not only that they become a market for our goods and services, but we have an investment-led strategy on the continent.
Yeah. Timing is also going to be very critical in ensuring that that happens speedily as well. But let's touch on a topic you spoke about a little bit earlier, protectionism. It then brings into the fore the United States and their tariff issues, and of course we suffered at the helm of that steel tariff issue not so long ago as well. How are we going to aid manufacturers of vehicles and the automotive industry in ensuring that that is not a complete barrier in the South African market?
Well, the Minister, the Department, we've been having lots of meetings now with the different sectors affected. We met with the steel industry and the aluminium industry. As you know, they've put on board a 25% tariff on our products. So it has hurt our exporters into the US market and so on. So we're working on a plan to ameliorate some of those effects by directly assisting those companies in terms of their customers in the US. As I said, we also made lots of representation. Our Minister will be traveling again next week to the United States, where we're going to still try to secure and keep open our market access. But I think what we have to agree on also is a diversification strategy. We cannot, as I said, in the medium to long term, those markets are going to become more and more closed. And that's why, as I said, we need to continue industry, leverage these markets. But as I said, medium to long term is build up our markets in the Middle East, and especially, as I indicated, the continent is our future. Fortunately, the African economies are growing again because, as you know, the commodity prices are recovering, the oil price is back up, and so on. So Angola, Nigeria is growing again, and again, there are opportunities now.
Yeah. How do you offer a competitive edge in a time like this in terms of protectionism?
Well, you know, at least what we've done over the past 10 years, our manufacturers have become much more competitive. They've moved out of those days of apartheid when they were just big and bloated, inefficient, highly protected and so on. They've actually invested in automotives, clothing and textile, footwear. They've invested in competitive raising, new machinery and equipment and so on. So I think actually we're well positioned. If we could in the clothing industry now compete with Asian products, it shows that we do have the technological capability. If we've been able to grow our automotive industry and even attract new OEMs like the one in Kucha, Beijing Automotive Works is starting a plant which is it's 11 billion rand investment by a new Chinese manufacturer. Hisense is doing extremely well at manufacturers. They are using based in South Africa, so we do have the competitive advantage. And I think, so we're ready, but it's now a question of market access.
Market access, certainly an interesting topic. How we get there, do we finalize the goods now and into the future? How quickly we can get that done will certainly be the interesting question there. The DG of the Department of Trade and Industry, Lionel, October.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed.